My dear friends, this morning I woke up to a concerning message from my good friend Jorix, and he told me, I'm curious what you think about this replay. To the untrained eye, perhaps this guy looks like a lucky and a blind player, but I believe that you can see the truth. Insinuating with that this Protoss player here, who was his opponent, a barcode grandmaster at about 5400 MMR, is actually a hacker and anything but lucky and blind, as he has full vision and doesn't require luck, as all his gambles pay off. And I was intrigued by this. I was intrigued because that means that not only is this guy a hacker, but he's also good at hiding it, and only someone with extraordinary skills, such as myself, is going to be capable of unmasking this nasty, nasty hacker. Or, of course, there is a scenario, a plausible scenario, in which Jorix, our Terran player, might be wrong and just got beaten by a superior mind. And I kind of feel like I'm being emperored with the new clothes here by Jorix a little bit, you know? It's like, only a true genius, only someone truly competent in spotting hackers is going to be capable of seeing this for what it truly is. So let's see if I am actually competent enough. Let's see if I am smart enough to see through the facade that our barcode Protoss player here is about to put up. So far, we haven't seen any real peaks. All the fog of war checks that he's done so far, our barcode player, has just been to send his probe in. So nothing out of the ordinary. He goes for a probe scout, which so far, pretty much across all replays that we've watched, hasn't really happened yet. All hackers that we've seen so far have just been fog of war peeking or using their production tab inbuilt in their hack to actually figure out what the opponent is doing. He's going back in with the probe as well. This is an idiotic move, unless you actually want to figure out what the first unit is, and if you want to scout for the CC. So he checks for the CC, then checks for the first Marine as well. Now, this is such a beautiful little move that you can, like, this doesn't happen at lower level, first of all. So it is really important for Protoss players to figure out whether the first unit is a Marine or whether it is a Reaper. Now, the Marine pops out at 1 minute and 46 seconds, and the Reaper pops out at 2 minutes. These are 2 minutes and 1 second, something along those lines. So if you check with your probe at 1:46 to see if a Marine pops out, that is very useful information. Hackers almost never do that because this information isn't important for them whatsoever. They don't care about that info because they have full info anyway. So this is a move that makes me believe this is a player that at least has the knowledge of a high-level player, which is something that a lot of hackers don't actually need to get. While I say that he has the knowledge of a high-level player, I do want to note that he managed to delay his first unit by about 10 seconds and his warp gate by about 12 seconds. So although he has the knowledge of a high-level player, he has the execution of a relatively low-level player, because this is not a good start. When you're controlling your probe, if you're a low Grandmaster, which is what 5.4k is, you should be capable of building your Adept in time, your Warp Gate on time, as well as your Twilight Council in time, and none of that really is the case here. Second unit also delayed significantly. If you double Chrono Boost, the second unit can finish up at 2 minutes and 40 seconds in game. That is not the case here at all. So this is just kind of important to note. Ooh, goes for the full-on Chrono Boost here on probes, rather than chronoing the Twilight Council. Sees that there are 3 Marines out, goes up with the Adept. I wonder if he tries to check for anything else there with the Adept Shade. So if you see 3 Marines at that particular timing, you know that it is reactor before factory, and then you can actually go home, and it is safe, kind of safe to skip a battery with this. So this is kind of the info that you're looking for. Now, one thing that I would recommend is leaving my Adept on the other side of the map and seeing this Adept going back as a Cyclone is building is a little bit suspicious. Usually what you do is you use your shade to see whether, so you kind of keep your shade in this area, then you keep shading up the ramp until you see a Cyclone come down. And the moment you see a Cyclone come down, you can shade your Adept back home because it's not safe for the Adept anymore. Sending your Adept home before that can mean one or two things. Either you believe that you don't have the skill to send your Adept home back in time, and you might lose it to a random Marine move out or a Cyclone move out because you're not good enough at multitasking, which is honestly kind of realistic at this level. or it is because you don't care when the move out is happening because you're going to see it on your map hacking mini-map anyway. So it's hard to say. It really is hard to say for me. Either way, we're getting Nexus plus Robotics Facility before our first warp in. So if I knew that I was being pushed, which it seems to me that is what Jorix is doing, he opened up with 2 Cyclones, 10 Marines of a fast reactor, and then a medevac, I would not get my Nexus before my first warp in, or I would delay my Robotics Facility. So right now, both of these warp gates have the ability to warp in a unit, except the cache simply isn't there because of these structures. Robotics Facility is not going to come in time to build anything against this particular push, so this is a fairly bad call to make. This is a relatively greedy call to make, especially given the fact that there's also still no battery yet. So he's going to get a single Stalker, and then goes for a Sentry. So this seems like a predetermined build, more so than a reaction to what he's seeing here. Building this Sentry... Oh, what's that? Building this Sentry also is kind of idiotic if you're fighting against a push, and in general, because it costs a lot of gas, which means it delays your tech. And all it gives you is a hallucination scout to see whether your opponent is building Banshee, Raven, or is adding a third CC before extra barracks or something like that. I want to see what this scroll was. This was weird. He just moved his camera all across the map. Maybe to spot a drop. I want to see where he goes. I think it was here. Oh, there's... he might have just accidentally moved his hand off screen. Just like a minor spasm or something. I mean, that's the only... He didn't actually do anything with it. He missed the army move out. He's now moving some Stalkers forward and is adding a battery. That is a little bit suspicious because he hasn't seen anything. But it's also too early for a drop to arrive. So it might just be a safe move. It's hard to say. It's hard to say. I would also have moved my Sentry forward if I knew this was coming, but maybe he's not fast enough for that, so I can force field this ramp. This was a little bit of a suspicious move, but not crazy suspicious. It really wasn't crazy suspicious. That was a terrible force field, holy crap. That was not it. It's gonna lose the first Stalker because the blink isn't done yet. Decent control on the Cyclone, needs to pick up this Cyclone. Hello, Jorix. Hello? Didn't manage to dodge a single shot here. This was a fairly mediocre execution out of both players, to be honest, but it's a hold. Battery has finished up right now. This is a significant lead for our Protoss player because he got a very greedy third base, managed to defend fairly easily. I don't think he lost any workers. Okay, lost 2 workers total. That's completely fine. He hasn't been building workers the entire way through, so that does suck a little bit, but he has so much chrono available that if I were him and I knew what I was playing against, I'd just be chronoing workers at this moment. I'd be chroning works like a madman. The fact that there's no observer here is kind of weird. The fact that we're only on 3 gas is kind of weird. These are not, oh, this is weird, he's hacking. This is more, why are we building a Robobay if we don't have the gas to then get a Colossus and Thermal Lance? Why are we building a Forge if we don't have the gas to build a Fast +1? We also still need Charge in order to be safe or to do any type of aggression later on. Ooh. This is a weird move. This is a really interesting one. So the Liberator here flies in. He has his camera on it. And he warps in a Stalker in the main. I think before this gets into vision, correct? Slightly before this gets into vision. Yeah, like half a second before it gets into vision. Now, usually I'd say adding in more Stalkers consistently after holding such a push is not so weird because very often there's a follow-up push with tanks. However, all other signs here indicate that our barcode player believes that this follow-up push isn't coming. We're adding production, which means that you're cutting units, and we're adding more types of tech, and we don't have a battery on the third base. If you believe some type of follow-up is coming, then I think those would be the main things, is just you build more units consistently, and then after you believe the push isn't coming anymore, you're adding the gateway. So getting these gateways and then a Stalker, is really quite odd to me, especially given the fact that his Robo-Bay is about to finish up and he doesn't have the money available to even start a Colossus. If I want to get quick Colossus out, I would not be building this Stalker because that actually stops me from building my incoming Colossus. So this is, to me, this is the weirdest move yet. This is inconsistent with which I believe to be high-level theory in StarCraft 2. And I believe that someone at 5400 MMR is going to know that. The response in the natural to that drop was relatively slow. So, yeah, make of that what you will. And the general mechanics of this player seem to be quite good. Like, I'm not unimpressed by his mechanics. His average APM is decent, which tends to be, so far, a good indicator of someone hacking or not. What else do we have? Just the way that he moves through bases seems fine as well to me. The way that he controls his unit seems fine and appropriate for his level. I like the blind battery here as well. I like that to make his case for him. I think the battery right now is not really necessary. He has very good supply at a good early game. He's going to get a Colossus out. I think his third base is absolutely secure. Like, there's no reason to do this. He's adding in more gateways. And the more I see this guy play, the more I actually believe that the Stalker might just be because of a lack of knowledge, not because he's hacking. Because I think a lot of the things here that he's doing it doesn't make a whole lot of sense given what his opponent is doing. Like, if I know that my opponent is taking a really late third command center and probably planning on pushing very heavily, because that is kind of what Jorix is doing here, right? He has a lot of units, he's out on the map. I don't think I dare building a Fort Nexus in this case and adding 2 more gateways while these other gateways haven't even really been useful to me yet. I would most likely want to have thermal lands. I want to have more stuff in position. So yeah, I'm kind of surprised by all of this. I think maybe his theory just isn't so powerful. One thing to note is that he has no vision at all here on the map. No pylons, no zealots, no observer over here. We don't have any cannon in the natural. We really have no static, except for batteries in front of bases. And we have no spotting tools. So these are things that I'm looking at and I'm thinking to myself, that is weird for a player at this level. But then again, he's completely out of position here, which is kind of crazy. Like, he is completely out of position here. And a stim in towards the third base could be, well, pretty deadly, especially given that you have sentries. You probably want to be in position to deal with this type of stuff. So I'm kind of confused by this, to be honest. He's just kind of holding here in between these bases. I guess the army is moving back. I would have loved for this army to move towards the fourth base, because we haven't really seen a lot of army tracking here. I don't think we have. It's just... So if I saw a mine moving in here and this happened, my response would be, if I have no vision on the map, to send a unit out here, a unit out here, and then to move the rest of my army to the fourth. That is what I would expect to happen up next. Because I need vision of the 3 main areas. Ideally, I have some stalkers here to defend against the potential drop, but I don't think my army is big enough for that. But my fort, because there's a unit there, units usually get split off from a main army. So I'd be moving down to my fort right now. That would be a natural response to me. And lower level players, I think, would also do that and would probably send their entire army. It isn't happening quite yet. Maybe he wants to wait for this thing, but this is kind of what I'm expecting. So it sucks that this move happens at the same time as Jorix is moving here, but this feels natural. It is confusing that there's just no vision at all, though. So he moves in, and now I would build a battery. I would move this probe up forward, and then I would move back to my third. I actually think this movement makes sense, but the lack of vision doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It is so hard, because there are some people that do just play completely blind. And just skip observers and don't have good map vision, even at this level. So I find it difficult to say, hey, is this hacking? But it is very suspicious to me. I kind of want to take a look at just the overall picture here. So not zoomed in on the vision of the Protoss anymore. Kind of see if there's any army tracking going on here, because that might be quite important. So he's moved up top a little bit here to cover this ramp. Now he moves down a little bit. to me, this feels... Oh, now it moves up again, which would be dumb. Because you're giving up potentially your fort base. If he moves down to his fort base at this point, that would be extremely suspicious. But if he stays here or moves back up, that would make more sense. Kind of this weird move in forward. No vision of this mine yet either. And Jorix is just so freaking patient. Or well, patient. He's just doing nothing. And he really needs some type of pressure here. Army now moves forward. Sees a mine. It's gonna go deal with the mine. And the fact that you have no vision at all on the bottom side is just crazy to me. Okay, his plan seems to be to push out. Which is a wild plan. Okay, sees these medevacs, blinks forward. Blinks, this is a crazy blink as well. The thing is that lower level players often go for crazy blinks. Like they see something and they go in. It's the lizard brain, you know, the part of the lizard brain that's still active. That's what they go for. Usually it's just blink forward. To blink forward or not to blink? That's the question. And they always blink forward. The answer is very easy. He is winning the fight. He had a good early game. This is a weird way to attack. There's no prism nearby. I don't think I would have attacked into this either if I had full vision, given that there was a tank and a couple of Vikings out, but he's gonna straight up win the gamer. This is such a hard case in my mind. I think none of the moves, except for a little bit of army tracking here, and the single Stalker warp in early in the game against the Liberator, were really suspicious. However, the complete lack of gathering vision on the bottom side of the map, the middle side of the map, 0 observers, that is really crazy. But to be honest, I don't think that is the craziest thing I've seen in legit players at this level. I've seen people that have no army hotkeys at this level as well still, that just use the all army hotkey every single time when they move out. People that don't have hotkeys for basically everything, you know, not even for their gateways in the early game. Like this is a mistake at really just a single part of the game, which is just the vision part of the game. I don't actually think this guy is hacking at all, to be honest. I feel like Jorix tried to gaslight me a little bit by pretending that only someone with very high skill, with very high intellect, as I have, obviously. That much is obvious after analyzing this replay, that I am of very high intellect and IQ, but I'd feel very insecure calling this a hacker. And the chance that this person is actually hacking, I think is not very high, at least not based on this replay. I need way more info. But yeah, the scouting in the early game, the way that the slowness of response, the understanding of the build order, what he's supposed to do, yet then not responding to what he is supposed to be seeing if he hacks, like the robo and the sentry, none of that really makes sense in the context of the early game scouting and how I've seen him move for the rest of the game. So I'm gonna call crap on this. This is not a hacker. This guy's legit. 5.4K Protoss player. Congratulations. You've been freed. You're not getting convicted here, my dear friend. You can walk free and go on with your life. And Jorix, perhaps you are the issue here, you know? Perhaps you should have just played a little bit better. Of course, I'm curious what you guys have to say. According to Jorix, only if you're a true genius, you can see that this is a hacker. And I know that the true geniuses are always in the YouTube comments. So be sure to leave down below. Tell me what you think. And perhaps you come to a different conclusion than me. Please tell me why as well. I want to hear that reasoning. I want to hear the logic. What were the important moments? Put some timestamps in there so everyone can enjoy your reasoning as well. That's going to be it for me today. Tough case. I have another tough case lined up actually for next time. It's Up a Tree. Send me a couple of replays as well, and I'm looking forward to those. If you also believe that you've been the victim of a hacker, be sure to send them in to my email address, harstemsemail@gmail.com. Mark them as a hacker in the title, and then whenever I have to make one of these, whenever I have to judge over one of these cases, I'll be sure to have a look at that. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.